All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Decision Hour. I am your host, Adam Bird. Man, folks, let me tell you something. I got a fiery interview lined up for you today. I've been so pumped about this interview for literally weeks. We tried to do this interview a couple weeks ago, and internet went out, and it was just, I took it as one of those, it was just not the right time. Well, today is that time, and I've been so pumped about getting this guest on, and he's joining me right now, Mr. Jon Gusty. Jon, how are you, my friend?
Brother, thank you so much for the kind words, man. I don't.
Do you, Jon? Before I have you get into it, folks. Jon's got over. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's got over 30 years in the entertainment industry, and then he kind of turned into a health and wellness and efforts to help his wife, which I'm going to let him explain here in just a minute. But more importantly, the chats that I've had with him offline have phenomenal is the only word that comes up. It's one of those like you finding a long lost brother and you just sit down and you just have these awesome conversations. That's how I feel like with Jon. So enough of me yapping. Jon, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, brother.
Well, first of all, man, I really appreciate that sentiment, and it rings true because I am, it was early in life where I think the very first thing that struck my passion was rock and roll.
Yeah.
And right around the age of like 11, 12, I was flipping through my uncle's, record album. What are these things? And I just started seeing record covers like, the first Zeppelin record and, Kiss, Dressed to Kill. And I was like, oh, what is this? And it just, I don't know, the whole experience, touching it and putting it on and listening to that crackle and those sounds. And it just made me want to, it was the first time I felt passion.
Yeah.
And that just turned into, I want to be like those guys. And so it made me pick up instruments. It made me make bands. And like later in life, it's like bands weren't enough. I wanted to be involved in like, record labels. And so me and some business partners started some record labels. And then I worked for, management at the highest of levels and really got to see like that whole industry from every angle. I mean, even as I was trying to be a band guy, so fortunate to have some really amazing corporate level record store gigs. I worked for a Tower, the legendary Tower Records, did about 15 years with them. Prior to that, I was with Peaches Records and Tapes, Turtles Records and Tapes, and then a little indie chain out of Phoenix, Arizona called Zia Records. Which was one of my first jobs. And so like, I just loved that culture. And I have done every job in the music industry there is to do, from like working in the record stores to being the guy in the band to, I've done audio, video work, design work, worked for management, worked for the distributors, worked for the labels, just seen it all happen. And through all of that, I especially later in life when I was, had more what I would consider to be corporate level gigs, working at like some of the big management firms and some of the record labels, and interfacing with massive brands like the Grammys. Like I live outside of Nashville, like the Grammys are like their corporate offices are a lot of music business infrastructure in the Nashville area, and just interfacing with these big entertainment brands that went far beyond music. It was everything, and it was later in life when I realized how I was just a dumbass kid who loved rock and roll and wanted to play guitar.
Yeah.
I never thought about how controlled the industry was. Like I didn't even come at it from that angle. I just came at it from purely like a passion angle. I just wanted to be a kid making music.
Right.
But as I got older and I got to see how it worked, you see behind the curtain and you see how manipulated everything is. Like, like people who, they call themselves artists, but like once they sign to these big companies, they're told how to talk, how to walk, what to wear, what songs to sing, what their album cover should be. And and you know, a lot of normies walking the streets don't realize how put together a lot of these entertainment brands are. And that's what they are. And at the end of the day, they're brands. They're not just artists, they're brands because they've got merchandising and marketing plans and all of that behind it. And so I just from an early age just got submersed in the entertainment industry, saw it from all levels, but it was only later as I was more of a corporate professional that I really saw the production and the manipulation and just it's all orchestrated.
So when you I have to be clear on this, Jon, and this may sound like an ignorant question, so forgive me.
Yeah.
But for the listeners out there, help understand when you say orchestrated, because you see like on social media and stuff like that now, some artists are coming out now, you know, that are saying, well, the music industry, you know, is you know, you sign with these labels and you're owned. Like you have to do everything they tell you to. It's if you sign and they give you a $1 million check, you got to pay that back, or that's a loan type of thing. So is that okay? So it's true.
And that's used as it's used as, I mean, it's really no different than the pimp prostitute game. You know, it's kind of, or the drug dealer customer game. It's like, here, let me give you a sample, you know, and get you hooked. And now I own your ass. And, you know, or put another way for the kids in the room, now I can manipulate you because you owe me something. I got you hooked, you know? And so there are advanced horror stories in the music industry about just, you know, unsuspecting artists that get discovered by these big corporate entities and they're signed, you know, which, you know, I mean, when you're signed, think about what that means. You know, when you are signed, it means you're owned, you know, and all that advanced money, all these, you know, homes and fancy cars and everything is being kept track of. I mean, there are horror stories of artists who have been flown on Learjets all over the world in the first part of their career. And then when it comes time to do the accounting and they see that they don't have much money left over, they're like, well, where'd all the money go? You know, it's like, well, you know, you're taking Learjets all over the place. And the artist is going, but I thought the record company was paying for all that. And I was like, well, we did up front, but you're paying it all back through us pimping you out, you know, that type of thing. So it's like that. There are very, very, very few truly independent artists. In fact, I'm gonna brag on the county that I live in is a county called Cheatham County, Tennessee, which is home to one of the most, if not the most, truly successful independent artists out there. His name is a guy by the name of Ryan Upchurch, and if you don't know who Ryan Upchurch is, you should go check him out because not only is he fiercely independent. He has never made any deals with anybody that he hasn't been the orchestrator of the deal, you know, and I mean, has done everything and has just stomped all over major label, like artists in all different, like in the rap game, in the country. I mean, he's got some of the best pure country music you'd ever hear. He does metal. He loves like Alice in Chains and stuff like that. So he does that and he does it all really, really well. And he does it all himself on his own terms and gives it away, sells it however he wants to. And he's huge. And I mean, like he's about the only example I can think of a true independent artist, but like somebody like Beyonce or Cardi B or whatever, those, they are so bought and paid for. And, you know, Beyonce can't take 10 steps without having to check with her management. You know what I mean? I mean, that brand has been so corporately hoarded out that like, and there's just deals with so many people that like that woman does not even come close to owning her own career. She's so bought and paid for. I'm not to pick on Beyonce because it's just an example I think everybody could relate to.
Absolutely, man. So, there's so many things going through my head right now because you're talking about the music industry.
But the whole point of like bringing that whole music thing up is while all that was happening, and I was kind of like witnessing firsthand like what just how the whole business worked, and then seeing, you know, bumping up against, you know, the big news organizations and the big, you know, other big entertainment brands, you know, sports teams and stuff like that. And you start realizing, man, it's all like that. It's all like that. Everything is orchestrated at a corporate level for some sort of profit motive and agenda narrative. Everything. I mean, every sporting event, every Netflix series. I mean, everything is there's marketing plans behind it. And why wouldn't there be? I mean, that's not like tinfoil hat. I hate that term, tinfoil. Have you ever actually seen tinfoil I've seen aluminum foil, but have you ever seen
I've never seen tinfoil.
Yeah. No. Anyways, sidebar. No. But it's all, I mean, isn't the superb owl about to take place, the Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I mean, every single piece of that event is orchestrated for the most profit-driven, agendas, and they're not even being shy about it.
No. In the military, we call that a psyop.
It's
like a psychological operation where you know.
In America, we call that pop culture.
Yeah,
it's like our whole fucking culture is a big fucking marketing side.
Well, I saw it on the news, and it like 5 news channels were talking about the same thing, so it must be true.
Yeah.
No, it's
because
it's owned, it's orchestrated. Like you said, it's orchestrated. It's. I'm going to go down that hole.
None of these news organizations are truly independent. None of these sports leagues are independent. None of these religions are independent. None of these politicians. None of these parties. They're everything is got a corporate piece to it, and it's all contracted and marketed. And
John, what's that added saying? What? How does it go? Follow the money. Is that follow the money, and then you'll understand why things are the way they are, or you'll see who's behind really the I think of Oz, like the Wizard of Oz, like who's behind the green curtain or whatever. And I'll say this about politics, and you could really put this on anything that's orchestrated. Really, I think if you're running for like a public office of any sort, I think you should wear a NASCAR suit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and sell sponsorships.
Yeah, and then you understand. Well, that guy's talking about this. Why? Because that's all. Those are all of his sponsors, right?
Ron DeSantis is sponsored by Starbucks.
Yeah,
okay. It's like that. But no, I mean, and honestly, we're damn near getting to that point. I don't know if there's anything at all that I am later in life trying to accomplish is 2 things: is just trying my hardest to fight for keeping the art of conversation going, because the art of conversation is just, I mean, it sounds so simple, but it is we are living in a time when your average, normal, everyday person is afraid to have independent thought, creativity. There's so much. I think a lot of people think that peer pressure got left at the playground, and it's like, man, I see more peer pressure in my age group than I see in kids.
I would agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
I like kids are way more free with their thoughts, their tongue. They're more free with their tongue. I'm 57 years old, graduated high school in 1983. I see more people my age afraid to have an independent thought or opinion, or go against whatever the social posturing meme of the moment might be, and what the odd thing is again, I came from a rock and roll background, and specifically, if truth be told, I've always loved more of the punk indie side of things, so I was never really much of a mainstream guy. And I've seen my peers in what I would call the countercultural movement. There's always been counterculture, right?
Right.
And like a lot of my punk rock heroes that and peers that I used to like really look up to, just flip. And in the last, especially since the silliness of 2020, just go from being what they claimed they were, counterculture. I mean, we have any of us lived a day where we did not know that politicians and corporations are inherently bad, and yet at the very least able to deceive and driven by profit. And I watched these supposed counterculture icons flip overnight and become like compliant corporate government loving slaves. Just listen. I mean, if you'd have told people, even 10 years ago that like, hey, you know what's going to happen in 10 years? There's going to be this weird partnership between, so-called government and their corporate partners. And, there's going to be a couple of main characters, and they're going to like come up with this, scary disease that for some reason science is still not able to prove exists. And they're going to, and they're going to, and they're going to like, they're not going to force everybody. That's the thing. They're not going to force everyone to take these injections. They're just going to strongly suggest that you take these injections. Oh, and they won't tell you what's in them. Oh, and you have to sign away any liability. So if they possibly make you sick or kill you, you can't come back and sue the people who coerced you into taking them. That's going to happen. And like most of us would have gone, there's no way. If they ever try to make me do that, I'm going to, I'll tell them where they can. It's like, and most of those people like flipped and went, sign me up.
Yeah, right there. But here's the thing, though. You look at, I'm going to use Hollywood as an example real quick. And here's why. Because you're talking about like pandemics and people flipping and whatnot. And like, oh, that would, people think, oh, that would never happen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I look at like the Hollywood is, they've been flaunting that kind of stuff in front of us for years. Oh, and if you look back at like, I always use this movie as an example. I'm not promoting it or anything like that, but Will Smith, Gene Hackman, 1989, Enemy at the State. Yeah, and it was about NSA being able to tap into phones, and it was before cell phones really happened. They could read your license plate and stuff like that. And back then, and even in the early '90s, people said that would never happen. I'm a little bit younger than you. I'll be 45 this year, and I remember even graduating high school, people were like, "That would never happen. That was just a movie." And I'm thinking to myself, "Listen, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. You guys, if been following me for years, I've said that a lot. I saw this back when I was in high school. Like, dude, I'm telling you, stuff like that. Like, anytime the government comes to you and says, trust me, we're here to help, that should raise a red flag right off the bat.
Well, and again, have you or I ever lived a day when we did not, the culture we were born into was just one that we all inherently knew that politicians and big corporations were not your friend.
Right.
Yeah, let's just put it that way. Like we just knew that. I mean, and it was just inherent to the culture we grew up in. And so why in the last 3 years did so many people, certainly not the majority. I mean, the majority of people did not go along with this most recent PSYOP, but enough did. And interestingly enough, the demographic, from my perspective anyways, a majority of the demographic that went along with it was the demographic that would probably take offense if I said, hey, weren't you guys the ones that were like promoting like, independent thinking and creativity and weren't you the quote unquote progressives and all? And it's like, it's not very progressive to go along with narratives that are driven by corporations and politicians. Like that. Am I making sense? I mean,
no, I feel like we have lost the art of critical thinking.
Well, we're shamed. I'm not, you're not, but like as a culture, we're shamed if any non-compliance or let me put it this way. There is I've watched, because I think you and I both have lived long enough. We remember when it wasn't like this, but somewhere in recent times, it happened pretty quickly, there are a lot of people out there that really honestly feel that they have the right, and I'm going to say that again, they feel they have the right to not be offended. Like a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people operate that way. They go through the day, and when they are offended or inconvenienced, which is an offense, you know, when they're offended or inconvenienced, they react in the same way that like a reasonable person would react if they were threatened. You know, they go into defensive mode and they have to attack. And over being offended or inconvenienced. And it's been painful to watch because, man, the human experience is all about offense and being inconvenienced. I mean, that's part of how you learn your way forward is encountering things that don't necessarily fit or feel good or are comfortable.
Right.
You know, and that's how we all grow. It's how we learned how to not shit in our pants, because that's it's uncomfortable. I mean, maybe there's a few out there that still carry that tradition on, but for the most part,
some may take offense that you said it that way. But I think, you know.
Send all hate email to jongusty@gmail.com.
It blows my mind though that we've become such a society. How do I want to say this? We've become a society that is weak-minded, full of weak-minded individuals. Like, you so much as sneeze in my direction and you're 100 yards away from me, somebody would get offended. We get offended now. The society people get offended over the dumbest shit. And it's like, okay, I get it. You might be offended, but don't go beat somebody up or start a riot or block traffic because you're offended about X, Y, and Z. Like,
and do you ever notice, like, here's an interesting observation. Do you ever notice that the majority of the people who tend to get offended, a lot of times they're offended on behalf of another group or type of person that they're not. Like, and I'm gonna say, I've been, like I told you, I've worked in record stores, played in bands, and been in the music industry all my life. I have a lot of gay friends, a lot of gay friends. Okay? Maybe one or two over the years. I'm talking over, you know, I'm closing in on 60. With the exception of one or two, all of them have been no different. Well, I'm talking like ideologically than you or me. They're not, you know, they don't make their when they are going to go out to eat, they don't go, well, we're going to go eat at a gay restaurant. Or when they go to a parade, they're not going, oh, we're going to go to a gay parade. You know, they're like, most of them don't even think that, in my opinion, don't even think that way. It's the other people who aren't gay that are making the loudest noise about those causes. You know, same with like race stuff. It's like, I've grown up around a lot of blacks and a lot of Mexicans. Right. And for the most part, again, same thing. It's like, most of them are no different than you or me. Like, they don't go, I'm going to go to a black restaurant, or I'm going to go to a black movie or whatever, you know, I mean, but there's people who are offended for them. And they're the ones that tend to be loud. And I'm not saying, and let me be very, very clear, I'm not saying that I claim to know what it's like to be black or Mexican or gay. I'm just saying that the people in my life that have been the loudest and the most obnoxious about any of those causes have not been black, Mexican, or gay. You know, am I the only one out there that has experienced that?
It's funny because there's like several names. I'm clearly not going to say their names, but it's like there's several people that come to mind, and it's just like I just to be a fly on their wall. Like, did they wake up that morning and just be like, you know what? Those people need help, and I'm going to stand up for them. And it's the people that they think they're protecting or speaking up for are like, shut up. Like I don't need you to say anything. It drives me. I used to get upset about it because it's like, man, these people are just, and I don't even know how. It's just like, all right, well, this is crazy. It ruined watching. I don't never watched a lot of TV or anything like that. I just can't stand seeing that stuff on the news or anything like that, because it's like, here's a bunch of people. They're either weren't hugged enough as a child, or they're getting paid. Or they're getting paid. There's something there that said, hey, maybe you shouldn't be a douchebag and go out and like protest, like, oh, I'm protesting for, gays, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, there's people who are gay or of a different race, and they're sitting there on the other side of the street like, yeah, man, we really don't need you down here.
Yeah, we don't
doing this.
we're just at this
You're
parade,
wasting
man.
your time, and you look like a moron. It's just...
It is... I really... If you think about it, like anybody that's ever worked in an office or any workspace, there's always those one or two people who take shit a little too seriously and get worked up over, they can validate they're getting worked up over, but it's like, oh, somebody's leaving dirty dishes in the sink. So they make it their mission to put signs up and, don't put dirty dishes in. Only someone who wasn't human would treat their dishes this way. And, it's like, and it becomes obnoxious, and it might just be like one person or maybe two people that aren't putting their dirty dishes where they need to be, and so but another person is going to make it
the entire building has to put up with it. And it's like,
and it's like, and it's that whatever that is, whatever quality of human behavior we want to call that, that's what a lot of these loud voices are. And what in all honesty and being very serious, what pisses me off about that behavior is for every person who gets worked up for silly reasons, it minimizes the effect of someone who needs to get worked up for legitimate reasons.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a whole cry wolf thing.
I was just going to say, yeah.
There are people out there that are really getting messed with bad, and they do need to be taken seriously. And unfortunately, there's been, a parade of douchebags before them that got worked up over something that have now made everybody else we're just all ticked off, and it's obnoxious, and you don't even hear the noise anymore. But there are real, actual people who really do need that advocacy, and what do you do about that? I guess there's always going to be Karens and Nancys and what's the correct male equivalent of
I have no idea.
What are we?
Well, I mean, nowadays you could have a male that recognizes as a Karen. I don't. Yeah. Now I don't know. I certainly don't want to say a name, because that might offend somebody. And then they be like, "Excuse me, but I recognize as a Karen." Okay. Well, there you go. And no offense to the Karens that are out there.
Exactly.
It's nothing. It's nothing against it. We're. This is the part we say that because we're going along with what's.
I didn't start the meme. Yeah,
culturally right now correct, or however the hell you say it, whatever. But I. Oh God! If you guys want to,
this is a Karen-friendly show,
right?
Karens matter too.
Right. If you guys want to get upset and protest about something, I'll say this is like, get upset about like human trafficking or children being trafficked. That's something to be upset about. Go protest that, because you don't see a lot of protesting on that. You would rather talk about somebody leaving their blinds open in your neighborhood or somebody's dog getting loose, which okay, I get to a point, but don't you guys pick the dumbest shit to get upset about, and then you want to make sure that not just your area but the entire community has to hear about it. And
and social, the advent and implementation of social networking has just given far too many
Oh,
people a platform for which to spew forth their narcissism.
you got
And
keyboard warriors
yeah,
nowadays, give
and
them a
and
ribbon,
so exactly, and I mean, everything social media is by definition narcissistic. I mean, it's, you wouldn't, if you are saying, I mean, right, what we are participating in right now is narcissistic.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
by definition, but hopefully we're doing it for very non-narcissistic reasons. I stated my reason.
Yeah.
I want to further the art of conversation.
Right.
I want to encourage more people
This
to
is
have
an educational show.
Yeah, but you want people to listen to this. I want people to listen to this. So there's a narcissistic aspect to it. But man, but too many people can't control they can't be responsible with their narcissism, and they.
John, God forbid people are responsible for.
No, well, responsibility is scary. It's scary. It's, you need to be a big boy and a big girl to handle the big R, but
the big R. I'm writing that one. Oh man, listen, I want to talk about. I want to switch gears just real quick because I don't want to forget to talk about this. Author, written a book, the Red Pill Revolution. Did I say that
yes.
right?
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Shameless plug.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
What was okay? Red Pill Revolution. What does it mean, and why? What was the purpose of writing the book?
What it means, it's hopefully those of you that saw the movie The Matrix and are familiar with the scene, the red pill, blue pill scene. It's an interesting concept. Just, we took it from The Matrix because that's where most people would recognize it from. But it is an interesting fork in the road to where, what if you had the opportunity? I mean, let's just take it, something I think everybody can relate to. What if you knew? What if you had the opportunity to know your spouse or your significant other? If you could, take a red pill, and after you took it, you'd know every lie and deception that they ever
told,
ever done, versus if you took the blue pill and you just carried on with your relationship and it just was what it was. Would you want to know that? And I use that as an example because I don't particularly think it would be healthy to know all of the lies and deceptions that somebody that I know and love have partaken in over their lifetime, because I've done the same thing. You've done the same. We've all lied and deceived, and we hopefully learned from that and don't behave like that anymore. But I don't know that it would be healthy for me to know that about somebody that I really loved. So even the decision of, I think most people would go, we'll totally take the red pill. Maybe from a Matrix standpoint, because it was a cool movie and all, and you'd want to be Keanu Reeves and you'd want to escape the pod and all that. But from a more ideological standpoint, that's kind of the basis for what the book is about. Is it's not that we are claiming to know the truth, but we are asking questions about some pretty specific points of just the human experience, like deception, things like that, and really talking about them, because I don't think I know. I mean, we all know it. We see it every day. There are a lot of people walking around in a daze. You can call it programmed, you can call it conditioned, you can call it Stockholm syndrome. You can come up with any term you want for it, but there are people who are just they're going through life in a daze, and they're not recognizing some really obvious and, quite frankly, dangerous things. And they don't realize some of the things that they're participating in, some of the things that they're supporting. And I think if people knew to ask more questions. If they knew if they knew it was just okay to be skeptical. It's totally okay to be skeptical. It's totally okay to say no. And so we started writing the book, interestingly enough, in the winter of 2019. And Event 201 had just happened, which is still up on YouTube if anyone is interested in going and looking at that little nugget of awesomeness, where your world influencers sat around a table in October of 2019 and pretty much laid out this scenario that, I don't know, 4 months later, lo and behold, played itself out exactly as they said it would. So we started writing the book before any of that stuff, and it came to pass as we were writing the book. And so we kind of wrote the book as this psyop was playing out. And I had the one of the guys there's 5 co-authors, and one of them his name is Jeremy Ayers, and Jeremy happens to be my wife's doctor, and he's over in the UK. And we've talked about my entertainment industry experience. When my wife of 20 plus years, when I met her, she had already been diagnosed with what she was told was multiple sclerosis. My wife hasn't taken a step on her own in 15 years. She's been confined to an electric scooter. And I knew that she had something. She had been diagnosed with something when I met her, so it wasn't a surprise. And I just threw myself into wanting to solve her problem, her health and wellness problem. And I didn't really have much interaction with the medical industrial complex. I've never been very sick. I'd never been in the hospital. It wasn't a part of life that I gave much thought to. Never interacted with it. Out of sight, out of mind. But now I've got this person in my life who I loved very much and wanted to help very much, and she was completely reliant upon this infrastructure, the whole medical industrial complex. And again, I'm coming out of a lifetime of the entertainment industry, and I just started to see a lot of similarities in the two industries, a lot of orchestration, a lot of narratives, a lot of marketing, a lot of script reading, and it just sparked something in me. It's one thing to manipulate and deceive to get someone to buy a T-shirt or a CD or a concert ticket.
Right.
It's another thing to play with somebody's life.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of downright, at best, bad information, bad strategy being deployed to what I think could be, this is going to irk a lot of people, but I would call it out and out murder. A system that was causing people to die.
It's criminal.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I had to get her out of that system and in with people who were truly going to work on her, and not just. I'll put it this way: the medical industrial complex has three weapon buckets. They're going to cut you through surgery, they're going to burn you through radiation, or they're going to drug you through pharmaceuticals. That's all they do. That's their solution to just about everything.
Yep.
They're not going to talk to you about exercise. They're not going to talk to you about your diet or any of that stuff.
And why is that, John?
For the same reason that car companies don't build cars to last anymore. They make most of their money for repairs and parts.
No, it boils down to money, and my wife is she just started as a nurse practitioner, and she's seen it. She admits it, and I'm actually kind of surprised how many people in the medical field kind of say the same thing. I've seen people get out of the medical field, say, hey, you need to not do this and go more natural, other different ways. I get my stuff through the VA. I stopped taking anything the VA. Here, this will help you.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's super, super important. And I want to be very, very clear and very, very loud about this. And I think it's relevant to people in the medical industry. I think it's relevant to people in the education industry. And I think it's relevant to people in the military. All three of those verticals, for the most part, people go into with the best of intentions.
Yep.
They go into with the best of intentions.
Wanting to help others.
Only to get into those verticals and get into those industries. And I think it's a fair statement to say that at some point they realize they've been deceived. And they're not allowed to teach. They're not allowed to cure. And they're not allowed to truly defend or strategize smartly. They are beholden to scripts and productions and campaigns, and they have to just follow along or be penalized. And yeah, and so when I speak ill of the medical industrial complex, I know that there are really amazing people who work for the medical industrial complex, who mean well, who in a lot of cases don't even realize they haven't for whatever reason, they don't even realize the industry that they're working for.
Right.
You know, just like there's school teachers who really who work in for the government school system, and they're there for the best of reasons, but they don't realize that they're never going to be allowed to teach.
They cripple
not the way that they need to.
They cripple you. They cripple.
And they can't teach. They can't discipline. They can't mold. When you teach somebody, you're molding somebody. I mean, if you take on someone as a student, doesn't matter what kind, it's your job to mold them into whatever the discipline is that whether you're teaching them piano or auto mechanics or math or whatever you're teaching, you're molding them into a discipline. And teachers aren't allowed to teach what they want, and they're not allowed to discipline. And discipline does not always mean smacking somebody. Discipline is discipline.
Right.
Discipline can be get up every morning and do 50 sit-ups. That's discipline. And so discipline is not necessarily always physical or negative. And teachers aren't allowed to discipline. Teachers aren't allowed to teach. Military people are not allowed to defend. They're not allowed to strategize. And quite honestly, people in the medical industry, I mean, we could talk for hours about people in the medical industry who are sitting in jail right now, some in federal prison for having the audacity to cure things and heal people.
And to speak out against big pharma. And
but I want to be very clear. I draw a vast, big distinction between the good people that work in these industries versus the industry themselves. Yeah. So because people get easily offended by, they'll say, well, my mom's been a nurse for 30 years and she's a good person and she's cured a bunch of people. It's like, your mom is a good person. Yeah. Your mom's not the industry though. That's not who I'm talking about. And
it's funny because it's like, I look back, like I said, my wife works at a trauma one hospital. My, I've had two aunts, I've got a cousin, all wonderful women, and when you talk about and they're frustrated, they're like, well, this is what it is, but and they've I won't say who, but somebody went off script and got in trouble, and eventually got fired because of it. Not my wife, but somebody else I know. I taught. It was a substitute teacher in Glendale for a couple of years. And talking with the teachers in the district, it was like, well, you can't do this, can't do that. And when I'll never forget this, my first day there, I turned the job down 3 times. And I just, honestly, I took it because I got tired of them calling me. And when I went, I wanted to make a difference because that's, Heroes Media Group is our network and that's giving back. So I wanted to understand what teachers were going through. Man, you want to talk about a profession that is appreciated. because of all of the crap that they have to go through. Their full-time teachers' hands are tied. And it's sad because there are teachers out there that legitimately want to teach kids and make a difference and an impact on a kid's life.
And it's such a tragedy.
But they can't. Well, you can't teach about this. You need to teach this.
Well, and
then they end up leaving.
Teaching is a skill set. You know, teaching is not something that everyone can do. Teaching is definitely a skill,
right.
And the people who are born with it, who are really, really good at it, it's just such a tragedy to see them chained and not unleashed to do what they're naturally just good at doing, which is teaching, because not everyone can do it. And I've seen just time and time again, good teachers just get discouraged and go, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go open a bakery or something.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
But I'll let you'd mentioned, you know, previously about someone, you know, in the medical industry, you know, going off script and getting reprimanded for it. So several years back, I was, you know, I know now why I was having such a hard time, but I was having a hard time just getting some blood work done easily on my wife. And they, long story short, but I went off the beaten path to someone that I knew had the microscope and the equipment and the knowledge to diagnose and also record. Like, I wanted the videos and the pictures. And what I wanted was, I wanted some blood taken from my wife. I wanted immediately it put under, you know, a couple different types of microscopes. Right. I wanted, you know, a black dark field microscope was the one in particular that I wanted. And I wanted to discuss what we were seeing. It was very relevant to, you know, it'd be like a mechanic not being allowed to see the oil, you know, right. in an engine, you right. know, and so I was having a really hard time, like, finding a scenario that would allow me to do that. And now I know why, because it's illegal. Let me tell you this story. So I go off the beaten path, and I find an individual who's got the equipment and the knowledge and the ability to do this. And this is a total all cash venture. But I get what I need right. out of it. And just having to do that made me mad. It made me so mad. I was like, what in the hell?
Right.
And so, but from that experience, I learned a really basic thing, that my wife was anemic. And that's like something like, man, they should have caught that at like the most elementary right. of levels, right? You know, I mean, it's just a normal thing that should have been noticed. And she'd had hundreds of blood panels drawn before, and you know, that pissed me off even more. It was like, I'm just learning this, you know. And so I was on fire, and I went to her doctor at the time, who was a very good guy. I'm not going to name his name, but he's here in the Nashville area. Really good guy. And I went and I said, man, I just bought an hour with him. I'm always been all cash guy. Like, and anyone that's interfacing with the medical industrial complex, just pay cash and you are in charge.
Yeah.
I was paying cash. I bought an hour with this guy. Basically I was like, what the hell? It's like, why did I have to go off the beaten path to find out that, amongst other things, my wife is anemic? And I showed him what I had, and he's like, how'd you get that? And I told him what I did. And he's like, man, he looks around, and I was like, brother, why the hell do you and all your peers not have a microscope on your desk? Why isn't the first thing you do when you see a patient is take their blood, take their saliva, take a urine sample, or any other thing that you might need, but at least those three, and start from there, and let's see what we learn from that? And he was getting really, really nervous, and he took me out into the hallway. And I mean, I'm dead serious. He takes me out into the hallway. He's looking around, and he's really, really, he's sweating, and he goes, John, he's like, look, I can appreciate your passion, and I know you want to get your wife better. He's like, you've got to be careful. He's like, I can't do these things. I can't. And I was like, I don't understand. Doctors, microscopes.
Doctor, yeah.
Come to find out, and anyone can go to Wikipedia and look up live blood analysis. It is illegal for a doctor, a blood sample, the patient, and a diagnosis to all be in the same room together. Believe it or not, there are people sitting in federal prison right now.
Say that again.
You can look it up on Wikipedia. Live blood analysis. There are people sitting in prison right now for having the audacity to have the patient's blood, microscopic equipment, and then an analysis diagnosis being made at that time. You can't, and that is why if you've ever given blood, have you ever noticed, and there's usually a company called, it's probably LabCorp is always with, they're one of the ones. You cannot even follow your own blood from the time it's taken out of your body to the testing that's going to be done on it. You're not allowed. I tried. I wanted to film the whole process and see, like, I'm going to get a blood sample. I'm going to follow this blood sample to the microscope. And no, like, I literally, when I did this, and it's there in most cases. Sometimes they're a little more obvious about it than others. But like, when you go to get your blood drawn, you're literally walking into a whole separate legal jurisdiction. You're walking into a new territory. You might get your blood drawn at like a Walgreens or something, but when you go get it, you are literally going into, you are in Walgreens jurisdiction when you're inside their store, but then you go into a little side office, and it's usually a company called LabCorp.
Right.
You go into another legal jurisdiction when you go in there, and you have a whole other set of rights and privileges and non-rights and non-privileges when you're in there. So I want to say that again. It is illegal for a doctor to have a microscope, a patient, that patient's blood, all in the same room, making analysis and diagnosis. If that doesn't make you want to make your head want to explode, like that is like saying that an auto mechanic can't have the car, the oil, the gas, the radiator, the water inside of it.
I need you to put the engine over there. I gotta have the
all
car
in the same garage at the same time. It's like, how the fuck could you make the diagnosis on what's wrong with the car? Because you start with all those basic things. Is it electrical? Is it gas? Is it, is it water? I mean, is it lubrication? If you're diagnosing what's wrong with the car, you're going to start at those basic things. Is it an electrical issue? Is it a gas issue? You're going to start from the doctors. Don't do that because they don't have the ability to take those. A mechanic can just look at the gas and go, yeah, there's rust in this, or they can look at the oil and go, there's metal shavings in this, or
so this blows. So the doctors don't. I'm so.
Yeah, no, it's just maddening.
Like, are you gotta be like, I can't. I'm really trying, folks. I'm trying hard to fathom this right now.
I mean, anybody. I'm serious. Anybody that is going to a quote unquote doctor's office to give blood or whatever, take notice. Watch when you go into the room that you're going to actually give blood. It's usually posted above the door or by the door. You're going into another jurisdiction, and ask if you can I want to know, like, have them call me as they're looking at that blood, because I want to be on the phone with my doctor, and we want to ask questions together. I want to see what they're seeing. I want to go, hey, what's that? Or explain that's my blood. I should be able to ask anything I want about my blood.
No.
But try it. Try and see if you can make that happen, and I guarantee you won't. You have to go off the beaten path. You got to know somebody with the equipment who is willing to do it low key, because they know that their ass would end up in some sort of cage, because they have the audacity to be practicing medicine without a license, and that license, won't allow you to have the equipment and the patient in the same room that you're making a diagnosis and an analysis in.
It just seems foolish.
Yeah, it's maddening, and that is. And if you want to know, if you're wondering why that might be, if doctors started with blood, urine, saliva, on every patient, they'd see what is, and most importantly, what isn't wrong with them.
Wow, yeah.
You know?
Let that sink in, what he just said, folks. And I mean, really let that sink in.
Yeah, no, I am, if there is any, and you know, this is definitely going to ruffle some feathers, but if there's anybody out there right now, after the silliness and the events of 2020, that are still trusting the medical industrial complex and their corporate partners in the pharmaceutical industry, and just ridiculously deceptive and nasty alphabet agencies like the CDC and the WHO. If anyone is, if those entities have any credibility with anybody, any of us, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, all of those entities have been ripped to shreds with facts, figures, analysis, and real life experience. And they're anybody else that is still listening to that or following that, I would highly suggest that you might be under some sort of mind control, or you're in a cult, and isn't being in a cult mind control. I mean, there's something that's not clicking. that you're at best you're in an abusive relationship, and you know what? He doesn't love you anymore.
Bless your heart, folks. That's the nice way of putting it. Like if you guys are listening to the CDC, World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, whatever, bless your heart. That's
again, you're in an abusive relationship, and they don't love you. They don't. They never did.
Yeah, you're not going to be a part of that group. I promise you. If you're listening to this, you're certainly not going to be a part of that group. Oh my God!
Wasn't it St. Carlin that said it's a big club and you ain't in it?
Yep. Amen. Yeah. Folks, if you're listening to the show, God, geez, you're welcome. First off, second, you're already online. Open up another browser. The website is theredpillrevolution.com. You follow the group on Facebook. We'll have a giveaway here that I'll put in the show notes and whatnot for a guide. Jon, we're coming up on time, but I got to ask this question. It's a question that I ask all my guests. You're on the show called The Decision Hour. Mm-hmm. We make decisions every day. Name a time in your life where your feet were on the line and you had to make that decision. What was it, and what was the atmosphere like?
First of all, awesome question. And man, does one come to mind. I was working for a I can name the artist. I was working for a guy by the name of Jon Bon Jovi. I was fortunate enough to be part of for a while, part of his management inner circle. Gentleman that manages him, guy by the name of Paul. Wonderful organization, good group of guys. Was treated very, very well. They were doing a show here in Nashville, and I was with my wife and my neighbor down the street, both at that point women far over the age of 20, but they were watching Jon Bon Jovi and loving it, and I was just happy to be able to facilitate that little fangirl moment. And I was watching him, and this is no disrespect to him, because he, again, good guy, good organization. Don't necessarily agree with really any of his politics or public-facing ideological views, but behind the scenes, they're very fair people. I was watching him, and he is a few years older than me. He's got twice the number of kids that I have. He's been married way longer than I have. And at the time I knew his schedule, and though he and his entourage, they play, well in excess of 200 dates a year.
Yeah.
And he, excuse me, sorry, suffering from sinuses here. That put him home, at best, maybe 45, 60 days a year. Mm-hmm. And I was just down the street from my house and I had my wife with me and I was still aching to get home because I missed my kids and my dogs. And I knew that I was going to go home that night. I was going to drive 30 minutes with my wife home to my house, to my bed, my dogs, my kids. And he was going to go, Jon was going to go to a hotel and his wife and kids were, you know, far, far away. And it sounds weird, but like I had this epiphany moment where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I have enough. I have enough. Like I have the wife I want, the kids I want, the house I want, the job I want. There's nothing more like I didn't want, there's nothing more that I mean, there might be some toys or whatever that I might like to have, but I had enough. And he, for whatever reason, continues to do it. And he's got, some would say, much more than I have. You know?
Yeah.
And so I kind of made a decision that night that I was gonna do things a little bit differently. And from that moment forward, I didn't really have a job anymore. I just started, I kept doing what I was doing. I mean, I made content, you know, I like making video. I like editing video. I like editing audio. I love graphic design. I like putting things together. I like writing. I'm a writer, you know, and so like I like all that stuff. I just wanted to do it with more purpose. And so not that working for Jon Bon Jovi was a bad gig, but like he has enough. And helping him sell more stuff and more tickets and stuff, while that would be a dream job for some people, and I was very, very fortunate and very, very thankful that I had that experience, I didn't want to live my life contributing in that way anymore. I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, but I wanted to do it for something that just, I don't know. I don't want to come off like I'm being I've been disrespectful to Bon Jovi because like they mean a lot to a lot of people, but like I just knew how much I had and I had enough and each day is precious and I wanted to spend it doing things that just wasn't helping other people sell more stuff, even though those people were great people, you know, and putting out a great product. I just didn't want to do that anymore. And so I just started doing things for a different reason. And when I did that, I had a really good friend, my friend Steve. I talked to him later that night, and he had made a similar decision around the same time. And he said it's like you're standing on the edge of a cloud, and you just step off, and you don't know if there's going to be another cloud underneath you to catch you, you know. But you just know you got to get off that cloud, and that's kind of what I did. I just kind of took that step off, and it was 100% faith. Just not, I didn't even know what faith in what, just faith in like, I just know that like, something's going to happen. Like I just, there's no way that it can't, because I just knew that was the right thing to do. And from that moment forward, all of these really purposeful opportunities started to come into my life, and I was able to work on some really amazing projects that did make a difference, and that did make me feel like I wasn't spending my time just to make a good profit. You know, and it's awesome. Like and the Red Pill Revolution book was came out of that too. Is like, I mean, I would love it if I want to sell. I want to sell books, but I want to sell books for the right reason.
Right.
You know, like I don't want people to buy this book just so I can get another 1995. I want people to buy this book because maybe some of this conversation resonates with them, and I don't know, and it's a fun book to read. There's shit tons of memes in it. It's a very picture-filled book and a lot of pop culture references, song lyrics, and stuff. And so it's a fun read. But I want you to read it. Like the same reason why I would, you know, people listen to good music. I want you to read it and think, hey man, that's a good song, and I want to share it with others. Hey buddy, listen to this song. Just exactly the same way that music moves around. You know, that's, and I just want to make content that is in that spirit. And if I can just keep doing that, then mission accomplished. And
you
so
found your purpose. You found your purpose of wanting to make content and stuff that make other people feel good and help other people.
Yeah, and like I said, and if nothing else, just further the art of conversation, because I love this time, man. Dude, you and I we could probably kill 4 or 5 hours. There's
easily.
So much we haven't even touched on, that we could just keep going, and it feels good. It feels like being, like I said, like back when we were like 13, 14, 15, when you'd wake up and the day was yours, and what are you going to do? What if you and your buddy remember the days when you built a fort?
Yeah.
And you just got into building a fort. You spent the whole day building a fort, and you poured your heart into it. And it's like, I want to capture that spirit again. And it's conversations like these that help me capture that spirit again. I feel like we spent some time building a fort together, man. And it was a cool fort.
And it certainly is, man. I appreciate it. Jon, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, so coming on is truly an honor, first off. So thank you for that. And you always, you're stuck with me now. I said that to you last time. Thanks. You always got an open mic here with us, my friend. Seriously, thank you so much. Folks, new friend, family, Jon Gusty. And I'll have all of his contact information, whatnot, in the show notes below. But that's all the time we have. Go ahead, Jon.
Oh, I was just going to say, I got, this is going to sound like a shameless plug, but it's actually a gift. If you go to theredpillrevolution.com/guide.
Yes.
This is a free download. We call it the anti-dependency suggestion guide. And it's 10 aspects of life that all of us have the ability to take back a little more control on. And it's I think it's put together really well. It's a fun, lots of pictures, lots of just good. I hope you read through that guide. It's a free download. We're not trying to sell you anything. They're not going to be, there's no pitch, but just, I hope you look through that and go, man, I didn't know that. It's kind of one of those, you know how like those clickbaity articles, 10 things that you didn't know about, well, this is in the vein of that, but this is like way more than 10 things. This is just 10 areas that you can change yourself, man. We have the power to take back and a lot of aspects of life we submit to because we think we have to, and you don't always have to submit.
Folks, I'm going to say this. I have a feeling that we're going to see Jon back on the show here again really soon, talking some more.
Oh, that'd be a blessing times 10. Happy to do it, man. And thank you for your time. And I hope we made some people laugh, and I hope we pissed a few people off too.
That's always one of the goals. Folks, again,
he says jokingly.
That's all the time we got, folks. Make sure I'm going to have all of that stuff in the show notes. Go check out our parent network, Heroes Media Group. Go check out all the shows, content that we're creating over there. If you or somebody you know that has a podcast and wants more exposure, by all means, hit us up, heroesmediagroup.com. Again, that's all the time I got. You've been listening to The Decision Hour.